every breath and every movement of the distant stars, a supreme law is operating, governing the slow transition from order into total cosmic chaos. This is the second law of thermodynamics, the invisible hand that dictates every transformation in our universe, from a cooling cup of coffee to galaxies. It states that entropy, or disorder, must always increase over time. The universe is not moving toward perfection. It is moving toward a state of exhaustion. Imagine molecules trapped within a container. At first, they are organized and concentrated, representing a state of low entropy and high potential for change and action. As time flows, they naturally disperse, seeking every corner until the order is gone. This simple movement is the fundamental blueprint for the entire universe's fate. Once energy is spread out, it can no longer be used to do work. The heat becomes uniform, the gradients vanish, and the engine of life stops. We currently live in a vibrant, structured cosmos. Everywhere we look, we see the remnants of the Big Bang's low entropy start, manifesting as beautiful, complex galaxies. But the clock is ticking. Every star that shines and every heart that beats is simply another grain of sand falling through the neck of time's glass. With every passing second, the total amount of available energy decreases. The structure we see today is merely a temporary fluctuation in an ocean of decay. Entropy is the ultimate tax on existence. No matter how much we build or how bright we shine, the debt to disorder must eventually be paid back. Gravity tries to hold things together, creating stars and planets, but even gravity cannot defeat the inevitable spread of energy into the cold, dark emptiness. From the smallest flower to the largest galaxy, the path is the same. The arrow of time points only in one direction, toward the absolute end. The heat of the beginning is cooling. The light of the origin is stretching. The universe is expanding into its own inevitable and final shadow of silence. Time is the measurement of change, but change requires energy. When the energy is gone, time itself will lose its meaning in the face of stillness. We are observers of a grand decline. Our existence is a brief spark in a night that has been growing darker since the very first moment. As entropy grows, information is lost. The specific details of how things were are erased, replaced by a uniform, featureless void that knows no past. Structure is fragile. The complexity of a brain or a star is a rare miracle that entropy will eventually simplify into the most basic components possible. Mathematicians describe it as a probability. It is simply more likely for things to be messy than organized, and the universe follows the highest probability always. The warmth of our world is a gift from a low-entropy sun, but the sun is a candle burning down, unable to stop its own consumption. Every possible future leads to the same destination. No matter the path taken by particles or civilizations, the result of the equation remains a zero sum. We see the local struggle against disorder every day. We build, we heal, we organize, but these are local victories in a war already lost globally. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. But in the transformation, it becomes less useful, less concentrated, and eventually, completely stagnant and cold. This process is irreversible. You cannot unspill the milk, you cannot unburn the wood, and the universe cannot return to the fire of its birth. It is the most certain law in physics. It is the architect of our beginning and the certain executioner of our end, silent and absolutely relentless. But before the end, there is the era of light. We find ourselves in the Stelliferous Era, the Golden Age, where the stars still burn bright. This is the era of stars. It is the time when the universe is rich with the raw materials needed to build the celestial furnaces of light. Hydrogen atoms are crushed together in the hearts of these clouds, fusing into helium and releasing the energy that feeds everything we know as life. Currently, the universe is a garden of light. Billions of galaxies contain trillions of stars, each a beacon of hope against the encroaching dark void. However, the peak of star formation has already passed. The universe reached its most productive state billions of years ago, and is now slowly slowing down. The factories of light are closing, the gas clouds are being used up, and the recycled material from dead stars is becoming increasingly metal-rich and difficult. In 1 trillion years, the last stars to be born will be small, dim red dwarfs. They burn their fuel slowly, like a flickering, dying candle. Our own sun will eventually join the ranks of the dead. It will expand into a red giant, its outer layers reaching out to consume the world. The oceans will boil away, the atmosphere will be stripped, and the cradle of humanity will be incinerated in the final gasps of its parent star. After the fire comes the collapse. The sun will shed its skin, creating a glowing shroud of gas, leaving behind a dense, hot white dwarf star. A white dwarf is a cosmic ember. It no longer generates energy through fusion. It only glows with the heat left over from its former life. As the era of stars fades, these white dwarfs will become the most common objects in the universe, slowly cooling over trillions and trillions of years. Meanwhile, the expansion of the universe is accelerating. Dark energy is pushing the galaxies apart so fast that they will eventually lose sight of each other. Future astronomers on distant worlds will see a void. The beautiful tapestry of the night sky will be replaced by an impenetrable, lonely, and terrifying darkness. One by one, the lights are going out. The universe is becoming a house where the lamps are failing, and there is no one left to fix them. Even the most violent events will become weaker. The grand explosions of the past will be replaced by the quiet, cold deaths of aging, exhausted celestial bodies. Vast clouds of ash will fill the space between the remaining stars. The remains of the era of light will become the graveyard of the future universe. The smallest stars live the longest, but even they have a limit. When the last red dwarf dies, the primary source of light in the universe ends. Planets will become rogue wanders in a dark sea. Without the warmth of a star, life as we know it becomes impossible, a distant, ancient memory. Galaxies will continue to merge, forming massive elliptical structures, but these will be filled with aging stars and very little new gas for star formation. By the time the universe is 100 trillion years old, the Stelliferous Era will be over. The lights of the universe will have officially gone out. A few stray particles of light will continue to travel, but they will be lonely travelers in a landscape that has grown unimaginably vast and very cold. Orbits will decay. Planets will be ejected from their systems or swallowed by the cold husks of their suns. The order of the solar system fails. The white dwarfs will cool, their internal structures becoming solid. These giant, Earth-sized diamonds will drift silently through the pitch-black reaches of the dying galaxies. The gas that once birthed stars will now only serve to hide the darkness. Matter is becoming locked away in cold, unreachable forms, lost at entropy. We are entering the degenerate era, a time when the universe is defined not by the living stars, but by the dead and decaying remnants of matter. Neutron stars, the densest objects short of black holes, will spin in the dark. Their pulsar beams will weaken and eventually stop, leaving them silent. Collisions between dead stars will be rare but spectacular, occasionally creating a brief flash of light before the resulting object collapses further into the abyss. The black holes will grow, feeding on the remains of the stars and planets that drift too close. They are the ultimate janitors of the cosmic graveyard. Time stretches. The intervals between events become so long that the history of the Stelliferous Era seems like a single, instantaneous flash of bright light. The universe is now a place of cold, hard objects. No heat, no light, no life. Only the laws of physics continuing their slow, inevitable work of decay. Everything we have ever known, every monument and every memory is part of this decaying matter. Even the atoms themselves are beginning to feel the strain. The galaxy is a ghost of its former self. The majestic spiral arms are now just streams of cold dust and dead, dark, and frozen stellar husks. Heat is the movement of atoms. As entropy reaches its zenith, the movement slows, the universe cools, and the silence becomes absolute and truly eternal. A black dwarf is the final state of a star like our sun. It is a cold, dark ball of iron, the ultimate ash of a dead fire. The Stelliferous Era was but a moment, The degenerate era is a long, slow transition into a reality where matter itself will soon cease to exist. Welcome to the graveyard of the universe. In this era, the very building blocks of reality, the protons and neutrons, begin to face their own demise. Proton decay is a theoretical process where the most stable particles in the universe finally break down. If this happens, matter as we know it disappears. The solid spheres of dead stars will literally evaporate. Piece by piece, atom by atom, the iron and carbon will bleed away into the hungry emptiness. The most durable structures in existence are not immune. The geometry of matter is being rewritten by the hand of decay, turning solids into ghosts. The universe becomes a thin soup of elementary particles. The complexity of the periodic table is replaced by a simple, monotonous radiation of fading energy. To reach this stage, we must wait for a time so vast that human numbers fail to describe it. A trillion years have passed away. The distance between particles becomes so great that they are essentially alone in their own private universes, unable to interact or communicate with anything else. While matter decays, the black holes remain. They are the only structures left that can hold on to mass, but even they are not truly permanent beings. Physics at this scale becomes strange. Without matter to anchor the laws we know, the universe becomes a playground for the most subtle and weak forces. Every record of every life, every achievement of every culture, is now being erased at the atomic level. The universe is deleting its own historical archives. This is the ultimate death. Not just the death of the living, but the death of the material world. The universe is becoming a pure void. The patience of entropy is infinite. It does not matter how long it takes. The laws of physics are patient enough to wait for every particle. Dark energy continues to stretch the fabric of space. The density of the universe is dropping to nearly zero, leaving nothing behind but the dark. Neutron stars, once the densest matter, finally relax. Their gravity is no longer enough to fight the decay, and they evaporate into the cold cosmic mist. The black dwarfs are gone. The last remnants of the stars have finally surrendered their mass to the void, leaving the universe empty of solid objects. Even light is losing its energy. Photons are being stretched until their wavelengths are immense, becoming low-energy radio waves that carry almost no information at all. We are transitioning into a new epoch, one where the only things left are the most extreme and powerful distortions of space-time, the black holes. When matter is gone, only gravity's greatest shadows remain. The universe has entered its longest and most solitary phase, the era of the Dark Kings. These are the black holes, the monarchs of the void. They have survived the death of the stars and the decay of the very atoms themselves. For a time, they will be the only landmarks in an otherwise featureless universe, islands of concentrated mass in an ocean of absolute and terrifying nothingness. But black holes are not immortal. Through a process called Hawking radiation, they slowly leak energy back into the universe, losing mass very slowly. The smaller the black hole, the faster it radiates. But for the supermassive ones, this process will take more time than the universe has existed. 10 Google years. That is a 1 followed by 100 zeros. This is how long the black holes will reign over the silent, dark cosmos. Even the most powerful forces must eventually succumb to the slow drain of energy. The black holes are slowly bleeding to death in the cold dark. Occasionally, two of these giants will meet and merge, creating a final, massive ripple in space-time before returning to their long, slow, and lonely evaporation. As they reach the end of their lives, the radiation intensifies. The once dark black hole begins to glow with the strange, haunting, and very ghostly light. Then, in a final, brilliant burst of energy, the black hole vanishes. The last concentrations of mass in the universe are being converted back into radiation. One by one, the monarchs fall. The fireworks of the black holes are the last spectacular events that will ever happen in the history of everything. The very last black hole in the universe is now evaporating. It carries the final remnants of what was once a vast, star-filled, and vibrant cosmos. When it goes, the universe will be left without light, without heat, and without any structures at all. The age of the Dark Kings is over. The radiation from the black holes will stretch and cool, joining the background mist of energy that now fills the unimaginably large and empty cosmic volume. The expansion of space has now removed every galaxy, every star, and every particle from view. The universe is a void beyond any human comprehension. Matter is so sparse that a single electron might be the only inhabitant of a space millions of light years across. Isolation is now the absolute rule. Time still exists, but without change, it has no meaning. Without the flow of energy, there is no way to mark the passage of the years. This is the beginning of the heat death, a state of maximum entropy where everything is at the same temperature, and nothing can ever happen again. The universe is now a graveyard of light. The last echoes of the Big Bang have been stretched into nothingness, leaving a silence that is total. No more stars, no more black holes, no more life. Only the laws of physics remains, presiding over a kingdom of perfect, cold, and eternal nothingness. This is the perfect doom, the inevitable result of the arrow of time and the increase of entropy. The universe has finally reached its ultimate end. In this absolute silence, the only thing left is the quantum vacuum. Even in the dark, the fabric of space itself has a fundamental energy, but the fluctuations are tiny and lead to nothing. The heat death is a state from which there is no natural escape, a permanent and changing sleep. In the deep time of the universe, black holes become the dominant structures, sweeping up the final remnants of the stellar eras into their event horizons. They are the ultimate gravity wells, patient hunters that wait for trillions of years to consume the cooling embers of the stars that once burned. Without the light of the stars to guide us, these black holes are only visible by the way they distort the background of the empty, dark void. As the last bits of gas and dust are consumed, the glowing rings around these dark giants fade, leaving them as invisible spheres of absolute shadow. But even these titans are subject to the laws of entropy. Through Hawking radiation, they are slowly, very slowly, leaking their mass back into the universe. The era of black holes is unimaginably long. It spans a period of time so vast that the entire history of life on Earth is invisible. Isolation is total. Each black hole sits in the center of its own observable universe, a lonely king with no subjects left to rule over. Inside these horizons, the laws of physics are pushed to their breaking point, but outside, the slow process of evaporation continues its relentless and steady work. Energy is escaping. The mass that was once stars and planets is being turned back into radiation, one particle at a time, over billions of centuries. The smaller they get, the hotter they become. Toward the end, a black hole that was once dark begins to shine with a very pale light. These mergers are the last grand events of the universe. They release more energy than all the stars combined, but in a universe already gone dark, the cycle of decay is inescapable. Every merger only delays the inevitable evaporation, adding more time to a countdown that must always reach its zero. The very fabric of space-time, once warped into a deep well by the black hole's mass, begins to flatten out as the object slowly disappears. Mathematically, the end is certain. Entropy demands that all concentrated forms of energy must eventually spread out, and black holes are no exception to this rule. By the time the last black holes begin to die, the universe has expanded to a size that is completely and utterly beyond all human imagination. Rotational energy is also lost. The violent spins that once powered massive jets of plasma have slowed to a crawl in the cold, dark silence. The black holes act as cosmic recyclers, but the product they produce is the lowest form of energy, a thin and cold radiation of very low potential. We are approaching the end of the black hole era, the time when the last massive structures in the universe will finally and permanently give way. The radiation is now a roar. The black hole is fighting to survive, but its own physics are tearing it apart in a final, desperate act. Boom! A final flash of light echoes across the void. For a brief second, the universe is bright again, before the darkness returns, deeper than before. These photons will travel forever, never meeting anything else. They are the last messengers of a dead era, carrying the final energy of a star. The universe is popping. Like the last embers of a campfire, the black holes are going out, one by one, leaving only cold, dark ash behind. There is only one left, the largest black hole in existence, a monster that once sat at the heart of a giant cluster of billions of galaxies. It is the final repository of mass, the very last object in the universe with any structure or gravity. It is the last stand of matter. The light goes out, the last black hole has vanished. The universe has finally and completely paid its debt to entropy and reached its final state. What is left is nothing, a void so profound that the word emptiness does not even begin to describe the total lack of everything that once was. The particles that remain are too far apart to ever find each other. The universe is a sea of isolation, where nothing can ever happen again. The temperature is uniform. There are no gradients, no heat flow, and no energy available to do any kind of work or sustain any kind of process. Entropy has won. The disorder is total. The universe has reached its maximum state of chaos, which ironically looks like a perfect and unchanging stillness. The cosmic ocean is calm. The waves of energy have settled. The storms of star formation have ended, and the tides of gravity have finally ceased. A solitary photon drifts through the dark. It is a relic of a forgotten age, a piece of light that has survived everything, but has no purpose. Space continues to expand. The distance between the few remaining particles grows to infinity, making the universe effectively empty in every possible way we measure. The story is over. The grand play of the cosmos has reached its final act, and the curtain has fallen on a stage that is now dark. The dark kings are gone. Gravity has no more mass to pull, and light has no more stars to burn. The universe is a kingdom without end. This is the heat death, a state of perfect equilibrium where time continues, but nothing ever changes. The universe has finally found its long-sought, eternal peace. Every particle, every force, and every law has led to this moment. The perfect doom is not a bang, but a slow, cold, and final fading. Time has become a circular road to nowhere. Without change, there is no history. Without energy, there is no future. There is only the eternal now. Our universe was a brief moment of light in an eternity of darkness, a small spark of order in an infinite sea of chaos and entropic decay. Even the ripples are dying. The fabric of reality is becoming smooth, flat, and perfectly featureless, losing all the texture and beauty it once possessed. The silence is absolute. It is a silence that will last for trillions of years, and then for trillions more, until the word forever loses meaning. We have reached the end of the line. The journey that began with the Big Bang has concluded in the stillness of the final heat death. The fire is out. The ash is cold. The universe has fulfilled its destiny and returned to the state of absolute simplicity from which it originally came. Even the ghosts of the beginning are gone. The last remnants of the origin have been erased by the infinite expansion of the cold, dark void. Interaction is a relic of the past. In the future, every particle is its own isolated island, trapped in a void that is expanding forever and ever. The scale of the ending is as grand as the beginning. It is a perfect, symmetrical conclusion to the most epic story ever told by nature. And so, the universe rests, not in a state of glory, but in a state of absolute and perfect exhaustion, where nothing can ever hurt it again. We have arrived at the ultimate destination of all things. This is the state of maximum entropy, where the universe has finally and completely run out. A few ghostly photons remain, but they are so low in energy that they can no longer interact with anything. They are the phantoms of light. Temperature differences have vanished. The universe is a uniform, cold soup, where every point is exactly like every other point in the vast emptiness. Isolation is the new law. Every surviving particle is trapped in its own bubble of space, separated from everything else by the infinite expansion of void. Time still exists, but it has no meaning. Without events to mark its passage, a trillion years is no different from a single, fleeting microsecond. The cosmic ocean has reached a state of perfect stillness. There are no currents of energy, no waves of gravity, and no storms of star formation. The structures of the past are gone. The magnificent clusters and the spiraling galaxies have been dissolved into a uniform and featureless cosmic background radiation. The heat death is not an event, but a state of being. It is the final equilibrium that all systems naturally strive to reach over time. The universe is now a graveyard of information. The specific history of every star and every planet has been erased by the increase of entropy. The last echoes of the black holes are fading. The radiation they released is being stretched so thin that it becomes part of the void. The expansion continues, but it no longer has anything to push apart. It is simply the expansion of an empty room into an even larger one. Matter has been diluted to the point of non-existence. A single atom in a volume the size of the current universe is the new cosmic density. Nothing will ever happen again. The universe has run out of ways to surprise itself. It has reached a state of perfect and eternal boredom. Entropy has won. The supreme law of the universe has fulfilled its promise to return everything to a state of absolute and perfect disorder and cold. The ripples in space-time are smoothing out. The fabric of reality is becoming as flat as the surface of a perfectly still and motionless dark lake. Even the background radiation is gone. The universe is now truly and completely black, with no energy left to illuminate even the smallest of points. This is the end of the road for physics. The laws that govern stars and atoms have no more work to do in this empty house. The stillness is absolute. It is a peace that surpasses all understanding, the final rest for a universe that has worked so hard to exist. The fire of the Big Bang has finally gone cold. The sparks of the stars have all been extinguished. The universe is a cold, dark place. Silence, perfect silence. The kind of silence that only exists when there is nothing left to make a sound, and nothing left to hear it. Everything that ever was is now contained within this cold and dark volume. The history of existence is a closed book in a dark room. Separation is final. The connections that once bound the universe together have been broken by the relentless expansion and the growth of the absolute void. The last bits of matter are disappearing. The universe is becoming a pure vacuum, a space with no contents and no potential for any future change. Time is a ghost. It haunts the empty halls of the universe, but it can no longer interact with anything because there is nothing left to touch. This is the heat death, the final, stable, and permanent state of the cosmos, a place where entropy has finally found its perfect and absolute home. Infinity is the new measure, an infinite amount of empty space containing a finite and nearly zero amount of energy and matter in its dark cold. The silence is a monument to the billions of years of effort and light that once defined the vibrant and beautiful universe we know. It is over. The universe is asleep, and it will never, ever wake up again from this long and cold night of the total heat death. Wait, a tiny fluctuation, a momentary ripple in the nothingness that suggests, even in the end, the fabric of space is never truly and completely still. But it is not enough. The fluctuation is gone before it can begin. The weight of entropy is too great for any new world to ever rise. This is the end of the road, the final, permanent, and unchanging reality of the cosmos. The perfect doom has finally and completely achieved its ultimate victory. The story of everything has a final chapter, and that chapter is written in the language of darkness, cold, and absolute, perfect, and eternal silence. We are the witnesses of this ending, even if only in our minds. We are the ones who can see the beauty in the final, cold stillness. The heat death is a masterpiece of physics, a state of perfect balance and perfect peace that will last for the rest of all of time. Entropy is a perfect doom, but it is precisely this inevitability that makes our present existence so incredibly miraculous and profoundly meaningful to us today. We are the way that the universe knows itself. We are the temporary flashes of consciousness that can witness the grand play before the lights go out. Our lives are small sparks in a very long night, but for this brief moment, we are here. We can see, we can feel, and we can understand. Cherish the light. Every star you see, and every breath you take is a defiance of the chaos that will one day claim everything in the void. We are lucky to be alive in the Stelliferous Era. We live in the morning of the universe, a time of warmth, energy, and infinite possible futures. The darkness is coming, yes, but it is not here yet. The sun is still shining, and the stars are still telling their ancient and beautiful stories. Take this moment to look up. Understand that your existence is a rare gift from a universe that is slowly, very slowly, and surely going back to sleep. Entropy is the final silence, but our voice is the music that fills the gap. Appreciate the light, for the darkness is the only thing that's certain.